I'm here to talk to you about a cool coaching tool. I think that when we talk about the Scrum Master situation, some people call it a crisis. Some people say rethink your role. Some people say start using AI. I say fight for your role, prove the value of the coaching that you do, coach for both individual and team performance, but also coach for value. And of course, the Toyota Kata is a method of value coaching that you can use by itself. Some people use it for retrospectives, the daily Scrum. Some people use it actually in place of Scrum itself. And then you can, move forward. And I have a couple of handy documents you can drop on your management if they sort of resist the concept of coaching. So without further ado, let's see if I can share my screen. Let's make sure that you can see that. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
We can.
Awesome. So here's the intro to my talk here, and we'll just move you kind people over to the side, and we'll go down. So you remember the first thing that I asked you as you entered the room is how was coaching in your organization? And we have seen, due to the whole economic situation, that coaching has been in a decline, right? And you know, one of the things that management doesn't really recognize so much is that coaching is the way. And both McKinsey and Harvard Business School, right, as well as Wharton and the Stanford Business School now teach that coaching is the most important thing that you can do in your organization to boost performance, create innovation, and drive towards solutions. So if you're not coaching, if management isn't creating a culture of coaching and continuous learning, they're missing out on big benefits. And I give you the link there to this People and Organizational Practice Report by McKinsey. Many managers are impressed by the McKinsey consulting organization. So that's something that you can drop on their desk if you want to revitalize coaching. The great key from this particular article by McKinsey is that their research suggests the key success factor in a winning organization is empowering and spending more time on high quality coaching interaction. Okay, so if you get any pushback about coaching or told to reduce your coaching, I really urge you to grab this article and have a frank talk, polite, diplomatic, but challenging with management on the importance of coaching, both, as I said, for performance and for value. So I think all of us here are very familiar with Agile coaching. We all do it, right? Whether we're Scrum Masters or call ourselves Agile coaches, we all know that there are many popular methods of Agile coaching, right? And you, of course, people have their favorites. You can use different ones for just different circumstances. So what I'm here now is to introduce another kind of coaching, which is focused not so much on the individual, but is focused more on performance and on corporate value and on creating business goals. And it will definitely help you reach your sprint goal. Right? So when we talk about all these coachings, right, we're not necessarily just coaching to coach performance, or we're just not coaching because coaching is what we're supposed to do, right? Although coaching is very good for the organization. What we want to do as agilists, right, is find better ways. That's our job, right? Find better ways to deliver customer value faster. And so what method best fulfills McKinsey's finding innovative ways to identify and drive towards solutions? That is, for us, value. Okay. So when we think about all the other coachings on the slide, as I said, some of them are useful for value. Most of them are useful for personal development, such as grow, right? So I want to, as I said, talk about Toyota Kata, which actually fulfills McKinsey's statement of finding innovative ways. So let's take a step back for just a moment. And, whether we're using Scrum, whether we're using Kanban, whether we're even using SAFe, no matter what kind of methodology, XP, some homegrown thing, Spotify, whatever, we're all sharing, the same basic goals. We want to set clear inspirational goals for the organization and the team. We want to visualize and limit work in progress. We're trying to shorten feedback loops. We want to create a culture of continuous learning, experiment, and improvement for innovation. And of course, we want to discover and deliver value early. So you can see that this applies to all the roles, and we do in Agile, as also to the larger business. So Kata coaching can extend outside of just technology, just outside of the change group, just outside of the Agile teams and Agile practice, but can really go throughout the whole organization. And Kata will directly support all of these goals at the same time in a way that no other coaching method I've found does. Now, that's a strong statement. Maybe you'll believe it, maybe you won't. Let's see how you feel at the end of the talk. So I think that everyone remembers when Barry Overeem of The Liberators, the author of the book Zombie Scrum, released his empirical study on value delivery by Scrum Masters. And he discovered that Scrum Masters do spend most of their time on facilitation, mentoring, and coaching, right? But the kind of coaching that most Scrum Masters are doing is personal development coaching, right? It's not value-based coaching. And this, I think, is at the heart of why so many Scrum Masters and Agilists are being let go, right? Because supposedly the role adds no value, right? But we are naturally coaches. We're trained to coach. We like to coach. We see the benefit of coaching of all kinds in our organization and in our Scrum teams. And yet we also need to meet business goals and show tangible value, right? So this study shows that Scrum Masters are more effective when they balance the process-based perspective, right? The facilitation coaching, the agile coaching with this value-based coaching of just, getting things done, solving challenges, moving towards the sprint goal and the product vision. So Toyota Kata is the humanistic value-based delivery coaching that I'm going to argue we need to include in our repertoire for our teams to succeed and for us to keep our jobs. Does anyone have any questions about that? I'll take just one question here before I go on in the interest of time. No?
Somebody is asking if there's a link to that Liberator study.
It's absolutely right there on the slide. At the bottom of the slide, and I will release the slideshow at the end of the talk.
Great, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so I've been using this word kata a lot, and I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with what kata means. So again, let's slow down to speed up. What does kata mean, right? I don't know if anyone has seen the famous movie Karate Kid, right? That's probably the most well-known example of kata in the culture, wax on, wax off, when Mr. Miyagi teaches the Karate Kid basic movements. So kata is a term for martial arts, and it means the basic practice movements for Tai Chi, karate, or Aikido. But these basic practice movements are common to many forms of activity, like yoga. I don't know if a lot of people here do yoga. I think doing yoga is very common now. And these basic poses that you do at the beginning of your yoga practice, like the sun salutation, these are also a form of kata. I'm sorry?
Sorry about that.
Right.
I muted them off.
Okay. So I'd like to argue that kata is basically a kind of brain yoga that improves our thinking, because what kata really does is, besides the daily practice of delivering value, solving challenges, moving closer to our sprint goal and other business goals, it also helps us improve our thinking. It uses a kind of scientific thinking, and it teaches us a scientific thinking habit. That's a meta skill. It's a meta skill because we can use it in everything we do. And once we think better, we learn better. And when we learn better, we become better agilists and we deliver more and better software. I think we've all experienced that, right? So we definitely want to practice this deliberate scientific thinking for innovation and continuous improvement. And the kata has a structure and a practice that's a scaffolding that supports both the coach and the team as we learn and grow. Okay. So when we just reflect back on all these coaching methods, right? The OSKAR, the GROW, the STEPPA, the ACL, I want you to just think for a moment if you've used these or thought about using these, whether they meet these criteria, which I've kind of broken out from the general statement that comes from McKinsey. Are they explicitly driving scientific thinking and behavior for measurable improvements? Are they really supporting teams and individuals in an agile mindset through their own agency, through their behavior, not necessarily just through talk? Are they explicitly aimed at building individuals and teams into innovators? We can use them with leaders during the transformation. Are they flexible enough to use with people throughout the organization? Can we show at the end of the day that we are using this coaching to deliver explicit business value to win over those who are skeptical of coaching, particularly executives? And do they explicitly create the goal, which is, of course, a learning organization that learns how to better deliver software for our customers? Is the process brief and relatively easy to learn? Right? There are many coaching methods that are really great, but they cost $5,000 to train and they take 6 months. And you may not necessarily have that time if you're working on the job. Are they relatively easy to infuse throughout the organization? And are they self-documenting? And when you think back about all those, you can say, oh, maybe somewhat, maybe kinda, but the kata actually fulfills all of these criteria and answers all of these questions with a resounding yes. Okay, so what is the origin of kata? Oh, this is a really cool kind of like rendering glitch we have here. Okay, so of course we call it Toyota Kata because it is a method based on the practices of Toyota, right? The car company from which we get what's sometimes called lean or the Toyota production system, which is kind of foundational to our agile practice, and we inherit a lot from it. And it's what Toyota does to develop people and solve business problems. Now, Toyota has a big culture, right? It's an old culture. It's been going on for more than 70 years. So they have this kind of kata mindset, this kind of scientific thinking baked into the culture. All the managers know it, all the employees know it. So they don't need this kind of explicit framework, right, and deliberate practice that we who are just starting on this process, who are just starting to build this kind of virtuous cycle of coaching and a learning organization and a culture of support, respect for people and coaching need, right? So if you go to Toyota and you ask them about the kata, they'll say, we don't know what you're talking about because it's already baked in everything they do, right? But for us, we have kind of extract it, as I said, set up a framework and practice it deliberately. So Toyota is most famous for this, coaching as management, this top to bottom culture of coaching, and that also goes bottom to top. The lean methodology that emphasizes continuous learning to deliver better customer value in a humanistic way. This is what it shares with Agile. And of course, Kaizen, which is a word I think you're all familiar with, meaning continuous improvement based on empirical data, right? So kata, as we know it today, comes from the US academic. He was at the University of Michigan, Mike Rother. He wanted to study the mindset of the people at Toyota. And he's did that for 6 years. He wrote his thesis on it, and he's written a number of books. And he discovered the way that Toyota uses coaching to be the secret sauce of their organization. In a certain way, it's the operating system of the organization. And also he discovered, and I think maybe we've all seen this if you've ever been part of a lean transformation, that companies that adopt lean methods without coaching experience subpar results. Sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, lean, only 10% of lean transformations succeed. And the reason is that they adopt the tools without the coaching. You need to use both together. right? And we see the same in Agile. We also see many Agile transformations limp along, turn into zombie Scrum, cargo cults, or feature factories, right? Because we don't have the kind of coaching support necessary to succeed, right? Today, Toyota Kata is very popular. It's spread throughout global manufacturing. It's spread into education, healthcare, technology. If you're a product person, you may have heard Melissa Perry, the famous product guru, talk about her use of Toyota Kata. Lego has used Toyota Kata for quite some time. I think they started in 2011 or something like that using Toyota Kata. So it's actually a uh, well tested process in terms of using it for Agile, and you're going to see it even spread more widely. I think it's really having a renaissance right now. But basically, any business that needs to create a learning culture, any business that wants continuous improvement and continuous learning is going to be ripe for Kata. Are we good with that? Does anyone have any more questions before we dive in a bit? Great. So Kata, as I said, is a scientific thinking habit, and it's got 4 stages of the process. So first of all, of course, instead of a problem that we want to solve, in Kata, we have a challenge, right? Problems are burdens. We view challenges as excitings. And we tend to word our, what you used to call a problem statement, but we call a challenge, with the phrase, wouldn't it be great if, or wouldn't it be wonderful if, right? And so, a really good challenge would be perhaps for an Agile team wouldn't it be wonderful if by October 1st, we were able to devote 25% of our time to fixing technical debt, right? And then that's a measurable thing, right? It has a definite date, and the value of fixing tech debt is well known in the organization. So it fits all of our requirements in terms of what McKinsey's asking for and in terms of demonstrating the value of this kind of coaching. So once we have set the direction of our challenge, which is aspirational, right? And the challenge is going to move as we learn more, right? The first thing we want to do is we want to understand what's happening right now. This is called grasping the current condition, right? What's going on with us that, we're not able to fix so much tech debt? How come we can't reach this, wonderful 25% goal? Or, maybe we're only doing 5% tech debt fixes a sprint. Maybe we're not doing any normally, right? So we want to actually document that and kind of understand why it is, what are obstacles to doing as much as tech debt fixing as we want, right? And then we're going to establish a target condition. For those of you who are used to the liberating structures, this is kind of like a 15% solution, right? This is a first baby step we can get to take us towards our challenge. So, maybe we don't say, oh, we're going to do 25% all at once, right? Maybe we're going to say, well, the next sprint, we're going to try to do 5%. The sprint after that, 7%. The next sprint, maybe 10%. We're going to baby step our way, sprint by sprint, towards the direction of our challenge, right? Does that make sense to everybody? This is the basic process. So as we go through this process, right, we are going to get ready to experiment. Let's talk about how experimenting works. And it's just like, as I said, scientific thinking, right? We're going to come in every morning for a daily 15-minute coaching cycle. We're going to think about our challenge. We're going to say, what happened yesterday? What we learned from what happened yesterday? What we're going to do with that knowledge? We're going to make a new prediction or set a, what are we going to do today, right? And this is where it kind of overlaps with the daily Scrum. And then we're going to make a prediction. If we do X, Y will happen. And so it's this hypothesis setting and prediction making that gives it a scientific flavor. And then, of course, we come back the next day and we document our success. So we have a metric. So we are measuring what we're doing. Does this make sense to everyone? Great. So here's what the daily Kata coaching cycle looks like, right? So basically, we have a coach, And we have either an individual or a team, right? And we have, as you can see, a lean canvas, a Miro board. This is actually a form that's in Miro. You can just drop it into, a Miro board, just like all the other Miro work you do. And you can see that we have some fields here. What's the challenge, right? Then we actually ask ourselves to document what is the current condition? What's our target condition, right? We have a field for Agile principles, if case we're working on Agile principles. This is particularly important if you're working in the transformation or you're working with management and you want to make sure that what they're doing in the transformation aligns to Agile principles. The Agile principles field is always very useful. And then for your data, you may have charts or other forms of data. You have a parking lot with your obstacles, just as you're used to. And we have our little daily experimenting record, right? Where people drop sticky notes, what I tried, what I thought was going to happen, what actually happened, what I learned from that, and what I'm going to try tomorrow, and what I think is going to happen from what I'm trying tomorrow. And that is basically the form of the coaching. So you can see it is self-documenting, right? If management or someone wants to say, what is it that you're doing? What is this kata? You have a board that you can show them filled with data. Over time, it builds up in tiny little increments. So it creates a full picture of the activity and the value it creates. Now, on the coaching side, right, we start with 5 questions. Right? This makes it very easy, and it makes it somewhat similar to OSKAR if you've ever used that OSKAR method or that kind of GROW method, which also has sort of set fields and set questions, right? So when we come into the coaching session, the coach will ask the learner or the team, right? What is your target condition? What's the actual condition? And they can just read what they wrote on the board, right? What are your obstacles? And then you can discuss the obstacles and how they might overcome them. Maybe their next action will be to try to defang an obstacle, right? Removing impediments and obstacles is a key thing for Scrum Masters to do or to support the team in doing. And this is a great and easy way to make sure that you are helping the team remove impediments and to grow in their own ability to remove impediments themselves, right? Then you're going to ask them what their next experiment is, what they expect, how quickly can we go and see, right? And usually the coaching sessions happen every day. So it's usually, every day, you have a little 15-minute session, right? So you'll have your 15-minute stand-up. And if necessary, depending on your challenge or your situation, you may in the morning as well have a little 15-minute coaching session. And then you're done for the day. No more meetings, right? The last thing that we want to do is dump a bunch of meetings or a bunch of new meetings on the heads of the team. So we're not going to do that, right? Everything should be short, sharp, and focused. Do you have any questions about this?
No questions in the chat, but if anybody has any questions, please drop it in the chat. Just preface it with a Q, and we'll get to the answers.
So a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between traditional Agile coaching, Bob Galen kind of coaching, or pro coaching or standard Agile coaching, and the Toyota Kata? And I want to say that they're 2 sides of the same coin. Right? One works to change mindset through talking, asking questions, asking people to reflect, right? The other asks people to change their mindset, not through reflection, but through behavior, right? If you want to develop a growth mindset, if you want to develop the Agile mindset, if you want to change how people feel about the Agile transition and what they're doing, right? Give them this inspirational challenge with the support of both the coach and the structure, right? Let them do the action, and through the experience of their own doing from a challenge of their choice, they develop open curiosity and develop this lasting thinking habit. And that is what gives them the new mindset, right? Seeing it for themselves, doing it for themselves, actually doing. So some people may be better with the reflection or the more common kind of life coaching, pro coaching, Agile coaching. Some people are definitely going to be more action oriented. And in terms of value coaching, where we want to see the delivery of value, the Kata coaching solution is a very useful side of the coin to look at. So I've used it in 3 scenarios. In the interest of time, I won't go through these in detail, but I've used Kata coaching to help a team solve a difficult problem that resulted in a website and feature outage. I've also used it with people who needed to, in 1 week, learn a new technology called Docker, a container for use in the cloud, and they used the Toyota Kata to teach themselves Docker and to also create a plan for managing the work while they were on this learning journey. And then I also mixed the Toyota Kata with OSKAR with a project manager who wanted to learn the liberating structures, right? And this is a person who had a very fixed mindset. I'm a terrible facilitator. This is the sign, right? I am, like this is an essential part of their being. So with some OSKAR, we sort of, made a plan as to how we might develop facilitation skills. And then we used the kata to follow through, and she would commit to practice using certain liberating structures for her meetings over a period of time and see how successful they were. And her meetings did get more engaging, and she did learn the liberating structures. This changed her mindset, right? I can do this. So we went in just 6 weeks from I'm a terrible facilitator to I can do this, right? And that's the kind of learning and growth that we want to see, as well as developing important meeting and facilitation skills, which are essential, no matter what your job is, right? So if you're interested in learning more about the kata, right, I'm going to have some resources on the next slide. I want to tell you that kata is widely taught around the world by volunteers. Unlike an ICA Agile course, which I love, I have ICA Agile certifications myself. Unlike an ICF Agile course, which can be quite expensive, I have nothing against ICF Agile at all. It's a great course, great way of working. Kata coaching is taught by volunteers who do it really just out of love and a desire to create more kata coaching and to spread the value of scientific thinking, of learning journeys, of learning cultures, and the whole culture of kata to everyone. I want to say that kata is a growing and diverse coaching career. Sometimes you'll notice in Agile coaching or other kinds of coaching that there may be, in some cases, more men than women, but there are many women kata coaches today. As I said, it's a career that's open to all. Absolutely everyone is welcomed into the world of kata. There's no gatekeeping whatsoever. And because there's no or certainly very low financial input, it's easy to learn the kata. Kata schools exist around the world. There's a directory of global kata schools. They usually meet online. A few meet in person or have boot camps. And if you are a woman who or someone who identifies as a woman, there is a group just for women called the Kata Girl Geeks. And I am a member of the Kata Girl Geeks. So then let me just quickly share some kata resources with you. Of course, I talked about the books that were written by Mike Rother. There's the original book of research, the Toyota Kata. Then for people who want to practice this sort of extracted method that Mike Rother has given us so that we can deliberately practice a structure that will lead us more towards the kind of culture that Toyota has. He has the Toyota Practice Guide. Then he has a book on how to spread Toyota Kata throughout the organization called Toyota Kata Culture, sometimes called the Orange Book. If you want to read a very simple but in-depth explanation of the Toyota Kata, I highly recommend the Canadian professor Sylvain Landry's book, Bringing Scientific Thinking to Life. There's also a great novel written by the German kata coach Thilo Schwartz and the famous professor of lean at the University of Michigan, Jeffrey Liker, called Giving Wings to Her Team. And this is a story of a person who is thrown into a new job, has to bring results right away, is under a lot of pressure to deliver. If she can't help her team deliver, they're all going to be laid off. And so she adopts Toyota Kata Coaching in order to basically solve her challenges and save a lot of people's jobs while growing everyone with this attitude of respect for people. And then there's a wonderful graphic novel. I highly recommend this. This is called Engaging the Team at Zingerman's Mail Order. This is a book that's absolutely for everyone. It's a graphic novel that teaches you the kata and it shows you how it's used at Zingerman's Mail Order, which is not a manufacturing or a technical company and is used by ordinary people for ordinary people, right? Is anyone here familiar with Zingerman's Mail Order? No, it's a fancy food company. It's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they wanted, they make gift baskets and such. They're really nice gift baskets. They're hand packed, and of course, lean is very important to them when it comes to being efficient and being able to pack more baskets, right? As orders grow at Christmas and as orders shrink in the summer, so they need to be able to expand and contract their business very flexibly. They need to be able to train people very quickly for the Christmas rush and to deliver high quality baskets that never disappoint their customers every time to a certain pace, right? And so they use lean and they use Toyota Kata to achieve their challenges. It's really a great book, and I urge everyone to see this by reading, this great book. The last thing I want to say before we go into further questions and a little exercise, if we have time, is how the kata fosters innovation, right? Because Agile gives us the space to innovate. Kata can be our vaulting pole that lifts us over the challenges, lifts us over the obstacles, right? So that we can make our ideas, innovations, and delivery more real. And that's really the message I want to leave you with, right? Is that Kata will foster innovation through scientific thinking and creating this better process. All right, so that's the core of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
We have a couple of questions here in chat from Andy. How do we make sure the coaching cycle experiments stay in the learning mindset and not creep into the get work done mindset?
So the coaching questions really help with that. It's a great question, right? We don't want zombie kata, right? Just like we don't want zombie scrum. So as the coach, you ask these questions, but you're also helping the learner stay in that right learning zone by making predictions, right? And also recording what happened to the predictions. We have to have that air of psychological safety, right? So that there's no pressure just to do, right? We want to remember this is always learning. And in this atmosphere of psychological safety, we feel safe to make mistakes, to say, oh, I tried this, it didn't work. Oh, that's an obstacle. How will we solve that obstacle? Always to keep on with that no blame, no shame, no judgment, open mind, and curiosity to support the learner if they get lost or if they start to fall into this do mindset. Does that make sense?
Andy, does that help?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Great.
Okay. All right. Karen has her hand up.
Hey, well, we certainly had the good fortune of having you today. I'm sure you've heard that before, but I wanted to know, say you're going into a project with a state organization, probably a little bit more bureaucratic than you would like, and they don't do a lot of coaching. So how would you make the sale? How would you go in, Fortune, and
Awesome.
introduce this great tool?
So, when we start any engagement, I hope, whether we're Scrum Masters or coaches, that we have a coaching contract. that, and it can be a lean coaching contract, which is also in Miro, that explains sort of our our boundaries of what we can do and what we expect to be able to do. And this way, from the very beginning, we have set this expectation with management, the people who are hiring us, be that an engineering manager or the SLT itself, the senior leadership team, right? That we are going to include a coaching portion. And if they question that coaching portion, I urge you to drop this McKinsey article on them and also to go to the Harvard Business Review site and show them the entire executive coaching package that Harvard advocates all the MBAs learn. If you go to Harvard Business School now, if you go to Stanford Business School now, if you go to Wharton now, they are going to teach this concept of coaching. They think that the best managers are coaching managers, right? So most executives listen to what happens at the business schools. Most MBAs are always interested in the latest in management science and management techniques. And it just so happens that coaching itself is, in fact, the latest management technique. And it definitely shows value. So I definitely urge everyone to dig through the business periodicals, particularly, as I said, the Harvard Review and the McKinsey People and Organization articles, to find all the articles about coaching, pop them into a package, and gently give that to the skeptical executive. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I do organizational change management. So I'm in this mix. And,
Sure, we all
a
are.
lot of times, coaching is not part of the responsibilities, but that's a good way to introduce it. And also, I would assume get examples of what their targets have been. Are they hitting them, missing them? And then this would be
Exactly.
a good way to improve.
Exactly. Also, I like to talk to them on a very personal level. A lot of executives play golf, and you'll find out that they have golf coaches or sports coaches or running coaches, right? They actually believe in coaches for themselves. And when you get them to reflect on, how the golf coach has helped their golf, or the running coach has improved their running form or their running time or helped them avoid injuries, then you want to reflect with them on how that same value can be brought directly to the business, to their daily business life, and to the daily life of the team.
So you just ask them, hey, what do you get coached in yourself?
Yes, I do. Well, I belong to the KGG, the Kata Geek Girls, and so we meet every week. And I have been a Kata learner. My personal Kata learning challenge was to just take my medicine on time. Like many people, I have a daily medicine that I should take at a certain time, but my meetings are back to back, and I took it very erratically, and as a result, I didn't have the health outcomes that I wanted. So I took a learning course, as a learner with a Kata coach, a first coach, and a second coach, right? The second coach, if you are lucky enough to have one, coaches the first coach. So, we have the learner, the coach, and someone who coaches the coach. In an ideal world, although not everyone has enough coaches to have second coaches, but there are ways around that. So I definitely received daily coaching cycles. And if you go back and look at the slide where I have the example of the learner's storyboard, right, with all the various fields in the experimenting record, that's actually my own personal learning challenge of learning what was keeping me from taking my medicine on time. And it was successful. After 30 days, I did, in fact, develop the habit, and now I do take my medicine on time.
Well, thank you for all the good medicine you've given us. Appreciate it.
Great.
From Richard, this appears to be basic coaching. Why is Kata better than other coaching models?
And so again, the issue is value, right? So if I can coach the team towards the sprint goal in a documented way, right, I can show the actual value that the coaching has brought to the delivery of the sprint goal. So say this sprint goal delivers 100,000 American dollars, euros, pounds of customer value or expected ROI, right? If my coaching has sped that up, if my coaching has enhanced that, then I can claim a percentage of that improvement due to the coaching. And that's value. That's actual money. And a lot of MBAs will respect that. That's something that's harder to do with something like STEPPA or OSKAR. Do you see what I mean?
Does that answer the question, Richard?
Thank you very much. Thank you
Great,
very
I can
much.
tie it.
Sorry, ladies first.
Great, no problem, because I can tie it directly to the value delivered.
Indeed. Look, thank you for asking the question. I think when I do my coaching, I'm implicitly coaching for value, whether it's a better career job, a promotion, or being more effective. So what I suppose I'm really saying, unlike counseling, which is important for some people, I coach for value just automatically, maybe because my background was a CFO, and so that's sort of implicit in what I think.
So the value of this, right, is because I have actual documenting of each experiment, right? And it's on this board that I can share with the team. I can share with management if necessary. I can actually show improvement in speed, time savings, and therefore directly show the cost savings documented. And that's something that's not always possible to do if you're doing personal coaching for confidentiality reasons. So it just makes the value more explicit, right? It's not that the kind of coaching that's often done, say with OSKAR, has no value or doesn't result in value later. It's just not as explicit about heading towards delivery and value.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Great.
All right. From MB, how do you balance Kata as process focus with agility, i.e. ability to adapt, flexibility, and out-of-box thinking?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what the Kata does, right? Every day I have this distant challenge, right? This goal, say, I want to, by a certain date, make sure that every sprint has 25% of tech debt, or that we have solved 25% of our tech debt, right? So I have this challenge, but I'm not telling anybody how to solve it. The team is the one who's coming up with the experiments. The team is coming up with the proposed hypothesis, the proposed method of action, and their own predictions, right? I just ask the open-ended questions. In that case, it has a synergy with any other kind of coaching, and it has the same creativity, agency, and flexibility. It's just driven more towards this business challenge, which is made explicit. But I'm not telling the team what to do at any time. Nor does this preclude any other Agile practices, such as innovation workshops or hackathons, that you may want to use. Does that address your question?
And that was from MB.
Good. Thanks.
All right, here's another one from Andy that I think we were all waiting for this one. How do you promote the experiment to the program and stakeholders to show the value of the coaching we are doing?
Great. So I like to always talk with my stakeholders about what we're doing. And since the experiment is towards a deliverable, right? This isn't a personal challenge necessarily, but a team challenge, the example that I gave, right? Tech debt, that's easy to share with the stakeholders. You can say, so before we were only fixing this much tech debt, now we have moved our way, innovated our way, experimented our way, learned our way towards a place where we're fixing more tech debt or achieving some other business goal, right? Before we were doing 5% tech debt, now we're doing 25% tech debt. It's easy to show the monetary and other product advantages of fixing your tech debt, such as your product is now extensible. You can actually build features on it, right? You have fewer customer complaints, so forth and so on, right? So it's easy to show this kind of value, as I said, in an explicit way due to the structure of the kata. And I often talk about that if I have to, have some kind of a review with stakeholders or with the SLT, I'll talk about how much tech debt or what other challenge, we were struggling with, and how much over time the team has innovated its way to improving that and delivering more value, or even just meeting the sprint goal. As I said, some people use Kata in place of the regular sort of Scrum format, particularly if they use XP. There's a real synergy, I'm going to use that word again, between XP ensemble programming and using the Kata as sort of a framework for moving the work forward. But we can talk more about that later at a different time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great. If it were an individual personal challenge with a particular team member, I would not do that. Of course, that should stay confidential to them. That's just ethical. Is there anything else?
Got two back-to-back from Asim. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name right. I'm gonna just give them both about showcasing. Can we hear an example of how to showcase value with coaching? Requesting them to refer to URLs will for sure doesn't work. Then he followed up with 9% company believes in keeping shareholders happy. Please share an example of how to showcase value to individuals whose focus is entirely different.
So again, the value is going to be in what we deliver. That's customer value, and that's dollars. And for most corporations, money talks. So if I can deliver more customer value, that is either going to result in better metrics, whether we're using, say, pirate metrics, whether we're using, the evidence-based metrics for business agility, or whether we're just looking at ROI, right? All of these things can be done. And I think that actually, for more examples that go into more detail than we have time for, you may want to look at Joe Krebs' forthcoming book, Agile Kata. But yeah, it's easy to do because you are delivering more, and that more has explicit value, and that's money. It's not hard to do at all. I hope that helps.
Nope. I'm still looking for.
I'm not afraid to talk about money.
It's not about money actually. It's about my question more related to coaching, because how to create make an understanding to create a value for coaching was my topic to ask, because everything around what you are mentioning that everyone always say, but how to change the mindset that okay, there is a value in a coaching, and then it bring there the support document I can share, but the actual why, that is what I'm looking for. Example, the metrics left right, that's still not connecting to a business oriented person, because they only think about money, and this example doesn't give money, it gives more investment to get something in maybe in a 6 months time.
Right. So I can, if I can coach people to deliver faster, then my coaching is responsible for that value, right?
Yeah.
So if people for example, let's say we're doing metrics with Monte Carlo, right? And the delivery date, say, is October 1st. And if with my Kata coaching, I can help people innovate efficiencies in the way they're working, and I can move that date to the left, right? That reduces my cost of delay, and that's due to my coaching, right? And so I'm going to claim part of that cost of delay.
But that is already your role as a Scrum Master, as a coach, that you're already working on efficiency of the team. So what new we are saying with the coaching, because I'm saying I'm a Scrum Master or Agile coach, I'm already working on optimizing my team, but here is a new coaching way which I can optimize further. So they will ask you that anyways, it's your first role to do that. Why more investment in different type of coaching? That's your role. You have to make team efficient. That is what Agile say. So I'm still trying to find a reason of and the value to have additional investment on coaching. This is what you mentioned is anyway the role of a person to do.
Yes, so there's no additional investment, right? I'm already working there.
Yeah.
I'm taking 15 minutes a day, right? And I'm deliberately showing them how we are delivering more value. It's not just I'm coaching people and they have a better mindset, right?
Okay. So
I'm actually have the documentation.
Yeah,
So if
makes
you
sense.
have more questions, maybe we should take this offline because
Yeah,
we're
sure,
running
sure.
a bit
I'm
out of
still
time. Is that
trying to
okay?
connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely fine. Thank you. I'll try to connect you on LinkedIn and continue.
Do we
Great.
have time for one or two more?
Sure, if you're willing to stay.
Okay. From William, what detriments have you seen implementing kata?
So, honestly, I have not so far seen any. There is a tendency for people to think that they know the answer and leap to a solution. We often see this, for example, when people are doing spikes, right? They think they know the answer. The team will just talk for a short time. They won't slow down to go fast. They'll leap to a solution. And sometimes, often, it's the wrong solution, right? So I prevent that kind of leaping to a solution by going more slowly, by taking these baby steps or 15% solutions, or maybe they're even smaller. Maybe they're 3% solutions to use the liberating structure mindset. So people who are used to, leaping, right, to solutions, maybe at first find going slower a little confusing, maybe a little frustrating. And then you have to work with them and build that atmosphere of trust to say, just experiment with me, try this out. Let's go through this process. Let's, after, 30 days, 60 days, see how you feel about it. Right. And that is a good way to just say, let's just try it out. Right. Let's just try it out. And most people are willing to do that if you have good trust with the team. I would say that the other issue is that sometimes, and this may be is more likely with people in certain positions in the hierarchy who won't say they don't know. Right? That's a key part of kata, is admitting that you don't know, right? So I have this goal, but I don't really know how to get there. So I'm going to try to make an experiment. Maybe it's the right experiment, maybe it's the wrong experiment, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, right? And so that's hard for people to say, they don't know how to do it. Or, oh, I was wrong. Oh, I thought that this would work, but I was wrong. This can be difficult for some people to say because, of course, we've grown up in this culture where it's bad to be wrong. If you're wrong at school, your teacher marks you down, your friends make fun of you, your parents yell at you. You can't be wrong. You can't make a mistake. You can't say that you don't know. This is particularly challenging if you're in a leadership position to say, I don't know, right? Because everyone's looking to you for the answer. So this is a good way, actually, to help people develop that basic fact of the growth mindset, which is you're willing to be open. You're willing to say, this is a learning journey. I'm looking at work as learning. And so you may have to combine the kata with some other kinds of coaching in order to help people get over that, reluctance to say, I don't know. We actually have a little kata that helps people with that I don't know. This is called the clicker kata. This is where you get some kind of golf clicker or whatever clicker that you like, and you wear it around your neck for a week. And every time something surprises you, something you didn't know, something that you didn't expect happens, you click the kata. You click the little clicker. And at the end of the day, you record the number and you realize how many times during the day we're surprised by events. And it's not our fault. It's not that we're bad. It's not that we're stupid. It's because we live in the VUCA complex and ambiguous environment where things are uncertain. And so we have to embrace that complexity. We have to embrace the ambiguity. We have to embrace, the whole VUCA situation, the volatility of the current environment, go into it and try to learn from it. Does that address your question?
Danny.
I highly recommend the clicker kata. You can search for it on the web. It's often sometimes called the I don't know kata, and I encourage actually everyone to practice it. It's a good introduction to the kata and to get used to embracing what you don't know and to enjoying not knowing.
All right, I saw William with a bunch of head nods, but it looked like you were talking, but it looked like you might have been on mute. I've never done that, just to let you know. Today. All right. Hey, does this work well with SAFE and Karen?
Any more questions?
Karen was wanting to know how this works with within SAFE.
So of course, it's just, part of your Scrum day. So to the extent that you're doing Scrum, right, or Kanban, you just add that 15 minutes into your day. You can also talk about it and do it during the innovation week. If you do the innovation weeks, I know a lot of people who are doing SAFE discover that management squeezes the innovation weeks out and they end up in a feature factory, just going back to back to back, output, output, output. But you can easily squeeze 15 minutes into the day if you are careful about the time and if you are wise. So I don't think it's incompatible with any form of Agile, or in fact, any way of working. I gave the example of my friend, the project manager, who definitely was working in a waterfall environment, and she was able to squeeze the kata into her day.
Thank
Does that
you.
answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Great.
Bob After, I think the only one that that I have on here is from Jamie, and you kind of touched on it a little bit with regard to metrics. So, what are some examples of the metrics you use?
So the metrics depend on the challenge, right? So let's dive into the metrics for just a moment, right? So in the kata, if I can just dive a bit into the weeds to go beyond the shoe stage that I showed you, right? We have, of course, like all lean things, the 3 stages of the model, the shoe, the ha, and the re. So we just sort of glazed the surface of the shoe, the first step, right? We have the outcome that we're trying to achieve. The example that I gave, for example, was getting to 25% tech debt in every sprint, right? Working on our tech debt. So the question is what do we need to do to know that we are actually getting to that tech debt? What is the process that we want to use and measure that process to our outcome? So we have kind of 2 measurements that we like to use in kata. Of course, we're measuring the main outcome at 25%, but we're also measuring whatever we do to, get to that process. What are the things that we're doing to get to the process, to get to the outcome metric through the process, right? So for example, when I was taking my medicine challenge, right, I wanted to take it on time every day, which was 3 p.m. in the afternoon, right? And I wanted to do that for 30 days. So my exact challenge was, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could take my medicine as prescribed by the doctor for 30 days in a row by March 30th, 2024. Okay, so right there, all the metrics that you need are right there, right? All I need to do is measure how many days I actually make that 3 p.m. deadline. And do I do it for 30 days? And does that 30 days coincide with an end date of March 30, right? So you can see I've got 2 metrics and then the outcome metric, right? So does that make sense? We can do the same kind of thing depending on the process, right? So for example, with the Docker example that I also gave of the team that was teaching itself Docker, right? They measured the number of features of Docker that they used to complete their task, right? They took this Docker class, they worked on Docker, then how many Docker features were they using? How many days did they go to class? How long did they study? So there are many metrics that may be appropriate to the context of the challenge. And those will be unique to the challenge itself. Does that make sense?
What do you think, Jamie? Makes sense to me.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Great. You can think about it in an easy way, right? If my challenge is to lift up a big boulder 3 feet so I can put it in a wheelbarrow and I get a crowbar, right? My daily challenge may be, do I raise it an inch a day? So I can measure, did I raise it an inch that day? Did I raise it an inch the next day? Did I raise it a 1/3 inch on the 3rd day? So I can just measure my inches until I've reached my outcome of 3 feet. Very simple way to think about it too. Any other question?
that is all the questions that we have, and we are at 9 past the hour.
Great. I had hoped that we'd have time for an exercise, but we don't at the moment. So if you're interested in this topic, please tell Jamie and we can do a deeper dive and then we'll do the exercise that time.
You're on mute, Jamie.
Thank you, Fortune. I think we can do a part 2 to this talk if you're
If you'd
willing.
like.
Yeah.
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 If people are interested and you have time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, let's chat after. Or offline. We'll take it offline.
It's okay. Great. And I want to thank everyone for coming and for being so engaged and having so many really great questions.
Yeah, thank you, Fortune, for coming today. We really do appreciate it, and we appreciate sharing your time and knowledge with us. This was a great presentation. I love it. I'm going to try to incorporate this into what I do. So I have some studying to do.
Awesome. You can always join your local Kata school and they will help teach you the Kata. You can read the books and use the resources. If you look on YouTube, you'll also find that there are videos by Mike Rother, by Gemma Jones, and other Kata practitioners that will also help teach you the Kata.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you.